Alone in the blazing wilderness, Mira walked under the merciless sun, each step heavier than the last. Every move seemed to drag her pain and fear along the burning sands. The wind whipped dust into her face, her lips were cracked and dry, and her heart was heavy with despair. Have you ever felt completely invisible, as if no one in this world could see you, no one could hear your cries? When those you trusted turned against you, when your kindness was met with betrayal, and there was no place left to hide. The sun showed no mercy, the wind whispered no comfort, only the ache of loneliness remained in the heart of the young woman struggling to survive. Yet, even in this desolate place, an unseen gaze followed her, a presence that could not be seen but could be felt. Was this the end for Mira, or the beginning of something greater? This is the story of Mira, the woman whom God saw, and of a faith born in the desert. Before her name was ever remembered in the history of faith, Mira was only a servant girl, sold from the fertile lands of Egypt into a foreign household in Canaan. She became the property of Abraham and his wife, Sarai, a couple chosen by God. They lived under a divine promise that their descendants would be as numerous as the stars. But as years passed, that promise seemed like a fading dream. Sarai grew old, her hope turned to bitterness, and silence from heaven became unbearable. One night, in her desperation, she turned to her husband and said, "The Lord has kept me from bearing children. Go to my servant. Perhaps I can build a family through her." It was not a request. It was an act of desperation, an attempt to force heaven's promise by human hands. Mira had no voice, no choice, no right to refuse. She was a slave, bound by the command of her mistress, and so her fate was decided for her. When Mira conceived, everything changed. The atmosphere in Abraham's house shifted. Sarai's eyes were filled with envy and sorrow. Mira, on the other hand, felt something new: power. For the first time, she was more than a servant. She carried within her the bloodline of the chosen man. Pride, subtle but dangerous, began to take root. She forgot her place, walking with her head high, believing she had triumphed where Sarai had failed. Sarai's heart, already wounded, broke completely. "I gave you my servant, and now that she knows she is pregnant, she despises me." Abraham sighed. "She is your servant. Do with her as you see fit." And with those words, the cruelty began. Mira was treated harshly, burdened with endless tasks, and isolated until one day her strength gave out. With the child still growing in her womb, she fled into the wilderness, running from pain, but also from herself. The desert stretched endlessly before her. The air shimmered with heat, the sand scorched her feet, and her breath came in ragged gasps. "God," she cried, "do you see me?" But only the silence of the desert answered. She collapsed beside a dry spring, her lips trembling. Then a voice broke the stillness, not harsh, not distant, but filled with calm authority. "Mira, servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going?" Startled, she lifted her eyes. Before her stood a figure unlike any she had ever seen. Radiant, otherworldly. The air around him glowed with soft light. "You will bear a son," he said gently, "and you shall call him Israel, for the Lord has heard your misery. I will make your descendants so numerous that they cannot be counted." For a moment, Mira could not breathe. No one had ever spoken her name with such kindness. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "You are El Rayel, the one who sees my soul." She drank from the spring, and strength returned to her body. That well was later called the Well of the Living One Who Sees Me. Mira returned home, carrying not only her child, but also a new faith. Time passed, and she gave birth to a healthy boy. She named him Israel, just as the angel had said. Abraham held the child in his arms, tears of joy filling his eyes. He believed this was the son of promise. But then something unexpected happened. Sarai, the barren woman, conceived. When her son Isaac was born, the promise shifted from Israel to the new child. Mira's position in the household changed overnight. The servant who once carried the promise was now an inconvenience, a shadow of what once was. The years that followed were uneasy. 2 women, 2 mothers, 2 fates, one chosen, one forgotten. When Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. During the celebration, Sarai saw Israel laughing. It was a harmless gesture, yet it ignited a jealousy long buried in her heart. "Get rid of that woman and her son," she demanded. "That woman's son will never share in the inheritance with mine." Abraham was torn. He loved his son Israel deeply, but God spoke to him, "Do not be distressed about the boy and your maidservant. Listen to Sarai, for through Isaac your descendants will be named. But I will also make the son of the maidservant into a great nation." And so the next morning, Abraham packed a small skin of water and some bread, placed them on Mira's shoulders, and silently watched her walk away with her son. Mira walked through the barren desert, the sun beating down on her back. The sand scorched her feet, and her breath came in ragged gasps. "God," she cried, "do you see me?" But only the silence of the desert answered. She collapsed beside a dry spring, her lips trembling. Then a voice broke the stillness, not harsh, not distant, but filled with calm authority. "Mira, servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going?" Mira opened her eyes, and there before her was a well of clear, living water. She ran to it, filled the skin, and gave her son to drink. In that moment, she understood. God never abandons those he sees. Israel grew up in the desert. He had no palace, only the open sky as his roof and the sand as his floor. He became a strong archer, a man of resilience and freedom. Mira found him a wife for her homeland, Egypt. Together, they built a family, and from them came 12 tribes, a people born of hardship but sustained by faith. They did not inherit kingdoms, yet they inherited strength. They were not born from comfort, but from divine sight, from the gaze of a God who saw what others ignored. Years passed, and Mira grew old. No one knew when or where she died. There was no tomb, no monument, no written record. Yet the place where she once fell and was lifted up remains, the well still known as the well of the living one who sees me. Mira's legacy was not written in stone, but in faith, not in possessions, but in perseverance. Her story was never about betrayal alone, but about redemption, about finding purpose in pain and discovering divine compassion in the midst of despair. Mira's journey teaches us this: God sees every soul. He is not distant nor indifferent. His promises are not broken by human failure or circumstance. When Mira thought she was forgotten, he called her by name. When her strength was gone, he opened a well before her. Faith is the water that flows through the desert of life, unseen until you dare to believe. Our worth is not defined by our position, but our heart that still dares to trust. God's presence is not always loud or visible. Sometimes it's as quiet as a breath, as subtle as light in the sand. And through Mira's life, we see that women have always been a vital part of God's design, carriers of faith, resilience, and the promise of life itself. If you are wandering your own desert, feeling lost, betrayed, or unseen, remember this: you are not invisible. The same God who saw Mira sees you too. He hears your cries, he knows your pain, and he walks beside you even when you think you are alone. Pray as Mira once prayed: Lord, when I collapse beneath the sun, remind me that you still see me. When I thirst, lead me to your well. When I am afraid, strengthen my faith. When I despair, whisper my name. Mira call El Rayel, the one who sees my soul. And perhaps right now, he is seeing you in the wilderness of your own heart. For faith does not begin when you have everything. It begins when you have nothing left except the belief that someone still sees you. Mira's story does not end in tragedy, but in rebirth. The well she found still flows, her faith still inspires, and her name lives on as a symbol of divine compassion. She is remembered not as a slave, but as the woman who was seen, heard, and loved by God.
That is her true inheritance, not gold or land, but eternal faith in a God who sees, hears, and never abandons. Her story continues in every person who dares to believe again, even after being broken. And if you find yourself wandering in your own wilderness, weary, uncertain, and afraid, remember, the well is already there. You just haven't seen it yet. Mira met him in the desert, but you may meet him in your pain. Because sometimes the place where you fall is the very place where God lifts you up. Faith is not the absence of hardship. It is the courage to keep walking through it, trusting that someone walks beside you. God sees, God hears, and God remembers your name. And that is the miracle of a God who never takes his eyes off the human soul. The story of Mira reminds us that no matter who you are or where you come from, God still sees you, still loves you, and still waits for you to look up, to realize that in the middle of your desert, his well has never run dry.